This.
On the count of three. And action. All right. This is the Extraordinary Podcast, and my guest today is Kelly Warr.
Hi, Nate.
Did I get the Warr part right?
You got the war part right, Southern draw and all.
Outstanding. Yeah, you're a little bit of an easier one than my last couple of guests, so I'm grateful for a simple name that I can actually work with. So, how's it going?
Love it. It is great. It is good. It is a day off, and I am here with you.
Outstanding. Yeah, it's a day off for both of us. We're officially on fall break this week, so got a house full of kids and
Oh,
a busy weekend ahead of us. So it's I'm actually enjoying this little piece of quiet and an adult conversation because I think it's going to go downhill from here on out. But anyway, so how's it going? Tell me how's it going. Tell me what you're up to. Where are you calling in from?
I'm calling in from Fort Worth, Texas, the
Hook 'em.
DFW area.
All right.
Oh, no, I was a techie. I was a
Oh,
Raider.
were you? You're a Texas Techer?
Yes.
The Red Raiders, right? Isn't that what
Red
they call them?
Raiders.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I've got friends and family all over that state. So depending on which one I'm talking to, I got to figure out who I'm rooting for. It's either the Astros and the Texans, or I've got cousins that were at A&M, and and then I've
Okay,
got family in Dallas as well. So
what kind of lame name is the Texans, though, for a sport team?
I know, right? Well, I don't know. It's like Texans or Oilers. I mean, it was probably a little bit of an upgrade from Oilers. At least their logo is better now. That oil rig that they had back in the 80s was a little bit left a little to be desired for sure. So tell everybody about who Kelly Warr is and what it is you do, because you've kind of got a dual life or a dual role going on here with your day job and your after hours practice.
I love that. Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for about almost 20 years. And my main focus for 17 of that was emergency. So I have a great aspect of
So you're a
just
very sick and twisted individual.
very sick and twisted.
And you've probably seen some things that a lot of us would not want to, I can imagine.
I have great stories there. But then eventually that life just catches up to you. And I call ER nursing a young nurse's game, because eventually you run out of energy. And so the last 2 years I've been in outpatient surgery in the hospital setting. And the joke among ER and ICU nurses is this is where ER nurses go to die in their career. And so I've finally got they're hard positions to get.
Right.
And I landed mine. And so when I've dove in, I said, let me die here.
Right. You finally get the shift that you want, and it's certainly not nearly the stress levels that you deal with in the ER for sure.
But that was a big adjustment for me. So
I can imagine.
Mm-hmm. So I went from this whole fast pace of like my patients were just numbers and tasks to this department where sometimes I have like 2 patients an hour, 2 patients in 2 hours. And oh my God, like I got to talk to you. I had to slow down and not pace the halls.
It's a completely different shift in mentality.
Yeah. So I got to go from the approach of what task do I have to do to keep you alive to, oh my gosh, I can talk to you and like see what gets you to tick. And the humans are amazing. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're younger or older. I mean, I haven't worked a lot with kids. I like my kids and I like my friends' kids, but past that, I'm not a kid nurse.
Not a pediatrician, huh?
No, and thank goodness for the people who are. But
Absolutely.
like humans are amazing and we all have stories to tell and we all have crap. And if you say you don't have any crap, well then
you're full of crap.
Yeah, exactly. And then like just even with the older population, like I would never be good working like in a nursing home or a setting like that. But when you can get them outside of that and just dive into like who they are, like you can learn something. If you can't walk away learning something, whether good, bad, crazy, then like how unfortunate. And so, yeah, that's kind of my story of ER nursing to, oh my gosh, I get to treat you like a human.
Well, I like it because in the ER, it's like, how do I keep you alive for the next 10 minutes? But then when you go to outpatient surgery and shift into that non-emergency setting, it's how can I keep you alive for the next 10 years?
Exactly.
And through when you have that broader mentality, that long-term
Mhm.
outlook, then you get to dive into personality, you get to dive into
Mhm.
lifestyle and more of what's, what makes them tick than just literally keeping their ticker going.
Exactly. One of the things though about ER is like you always see it on TV, you always see the dramas and, the trauma and
Right.
the super sick. But unfortunately in the US is a lot of ER patients are coughs and colds and bad periods and just so much minor stuff. And, so you have that, and then you have the truly sick, and it floods the ER systems. And it's not just in Texas. I have nurse friends everywhere, and it's everywhere.
Yeah, it's a systematic problem of I don't want to go into it. We can go
No,
into a
no,
whole
no.
thing about healthcare for sure, but
Yeah,
you've actually
no.
got a much more interesting aspect of your life that we're going to
Yeah.
spend time with. But yeah, I mean, the system is kind of broken,
Mhm.
and the way that, I mean, we have Grady Hospital down here in
Yeah.
Atlanta. I mean, and they deal with more gunshot victims than, or they do more
Mhm.
gunshot wounds than anybody else in the country. But they're overrun with flu and,
Mhm.
minor stuff and because we do have a bit of a transient population, you know
Mhm.
that's where they go to seek their regular medical care. And so, yeah, it creates a system that makes it difficult to deal with some of those emergency situations. But through the course of all this, you've also added a new aspect of your life
Yes.
that a lot of people in traditional medicine kind of frown upon or kind of poo-poo a little
Mhm.
bit. So let's talk about this new aspect that you've added to your
Yes.
life.
Yeah, so it's the craziness of all this that just kind of built up over time. And I just found my space was just flooded with just disappointment and frustration and all of this stuff. And I knew there had to be something else out there. But what was that something? I had no idea. And it was a simple walk in a silly ad on Facebook that talked about coaching. And I thought coaches were just nutty people, and people who hired coaches were just even nuttier. And it's been the
Well,
most amazing
that still might be a
transformation.
little bit true, but
But it's taken the whole approach of so much more that we are our health, and it incorporates your spirit, your mind, your body, your environment, all of it has an effect. And if one area is off, it translates into the other area. And how can you focus and get, and I like to say, we all have our own versions of healthy. What's healthy for me is different for you. And that's okay. But it's that healthy. If something's off, Nate, you have your family, you have your 5 kids. I mean, if something's rocking really seriously wrong in your world, how are you gonna be able to just focus on you and your well-being?
well, and I like to think of, I love the idea of an individualized approach. I talk a lot about Jordan Peterson, and his daughter Michaela went through some really, really difficult autoimmune disease and just some really challenging health issues. And the only way they were able to ultimately solve that was through this uh, pretty radical diet that for 90% of us would not be a
That's
healthy
word.
lifestyle, would not work at all. But it absolutely changed that girl's life. And I
Mhm.
think it saved her life personally. And so I love the idea of like, look, you just got to figure out what works for you. And what works for you when you're 20 is not going to be the same thing that works for you when you're 40. So it's like
No.
constantly improving, constantly evolving, constantly redesigning what that's supposed to look like. But before we get into all that, I
I
want to
know.
hear the story about what park were you at? What was going on? Like, I want to hear the experience of what happened when you kind of decided, okay, I mean, I've been this ER nurse for so long, and now you're in the OR, or now you're in more traditional operating room, but you're still in traditional
Mhm.
medicine,
Yeah.
and feelings that there's something else more there. There's something missing. And for
Yeah.
those of us that are in this space, that's a very familiar story. There's something that I'm not doing. There's something more that I should be involved with. So I would love to hear like that experience.
So, yeah, it was just, I found this place. I was just like, life was just crappy for me. I was ending a very abusive relationship. I had some stuff going on with my daughter, just deep, deep, hard mental illness. And she hadn't lived with me for years, and she's getting ready to move home. And then you had the work aspect. And I would just go out, I would come home at night and I would just walk around my neighborhood, kind of praying, kind of just listening to music, just trying to get into that space saying, I know there's something else out there. God, what is it? And when I found this ad, I was like, this is it. I had no idea what it was, but I knew inside.
Do you remember who did the ad, or what was it
Yeah,
about the ad that grabbed your attention? Or
it was the Nurse Coach Collective, and they're
Nurse
actually
Coach
out of,
Collective?
yeah, and they're actually out of Portland. And it was this ad that just talked about, do you want to take control? Do you want to direct your life? Do you want to be a nurse and actually have a positive effect on the people you come in contact with? And they didn't say patients, they didn't say clients, they just said the people you come in contact with.
Hmm.
And I was intrigued. And they offered a free call. And I remember calling my mom saying, I have no idea what this is, but it's not gonna work because it's gonna be far out of my price range. And so I was going into it negative, like this isn't gonna happen. And so I did my free call. And I only told my mom, I swore to silence, because
Mhm.
I'm kind of the odd bird out where I like you, those in my circle always know where they stand with me. I am like your best friend, or like I'm a people lover. So if you're in my circle, I give you my all. So I'm
Nice.
like swearing my mom to secret. And I do this call with Heather, and I felt like I was in my place. And it was in my, like it was tight, but it was in my budget. And I was like, I'm
The
all in.
program, to buy the
The
program.
program. The
Nice.
program. It was a 6-month program. And I was all in. So I signed up for this stuff, and I tell a few people, and I go to the hospital and I tell people I'm gonna be a nurse coach. And they're looking at me like, what the, you know?
Now, what is a nurse coach?
Exactly. And it's very interesting, but we'll go into that in a minute. But so anyways, I signed up for this program. It starts in I think it was like 3 weeks. Like I got in on the last minute. And so I go to my very first because it was all Zoom. And I get my books in the mail and I'm all excited, and I'm like this whole new career. Still have no idea what I'm doing or what it is. And it was just the whole transformation. And ultimately, I had decided after week 1 that if I did nothing with it, like this was the best gift I could ever give myself. Because what I learned out of it is, because I'm a bleeding heart and I'm a fixer and I'm a healer and I want to just, do that. And no one had ever told me, and they don't tell healthcare people, we're allowed to take care of ourselves first. And it was this program that said, how can you give to anyone if you don't give to yourself?
I love it.
And that was my aha moment. Like, oh my God, you're telling me it's okay that I take care of me? And that
Well,
was ultimately the beginning.
it's so funny because it happened to me just this week, yesterday, as a matter of fact, where there's people in this space that want to coach and help people get to where they want to go, and they refuse to allow themselves to
Mhm.
get where they want to go. Like it's mind-boggling to me sometimes. It's very interesting.
And
We
how can you do that if you don't,
You're
if you
never
don't?
gonna be an effective coach if you can't get yourself stuff if you can't get your own stuff straight first. Yeah, well, I mean, that's something that we preach, or that I preach a lot about. It's like the the better version of you that's out there, the more good you're going to be able to do for other people, whether that's financially or personally or whatever.
Mhm.
But if you're a mess, you can spend your time trying to help others, and yeah, you may make a little bit of an impact here and there, blah blah, blah, whatever, but you're not going to be effective.
Mm-mm. No.
And you may be able to tell some people some good advice here and there. They might listen to it, but when they see your life and they see where it's coming from, they're gonna devalue it because your own mess is a life. When you've got a train wreck going on, how are
Mhm.
you gonna help other people get back on the rails? Doesn't
Yeah.
make sense.
So one of the great things about the health coaching, whether you're a nurse or not, the great thing about being a nurse, we'll hop into that real quick, is I have my medication knowledge, my lifespan knowledge, my bedside manner. And so that's what makes the nurses stand out, is we have that actual hands-on education. But as coaches, we're not experts. And that's the great thing about it. And we don't give advice. We don't tell you what to do, but we dive in and we just kind of, well, like for instance, Nate, you're young, you're healthy, you have a family.
I
right?
appreciate that.
um,
At
what
least good at
if
faking it.
you, well, there you go. What if like something started to go wrong? It could be physical, it could be mental, it could be with you, it could be with your wife, your parents, and something's just not jiving. How does that make you feel?
Out of sorts.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
what do you
that happens all the
yeah,
time. For what it's worth,
yeah.
that's every day of my life. Yeah, and like I said, it may look like a good facade up front, but it's a train wreck behind the scenes. But I digress.
You digress.
Yeah.
But what is it like if you have to go to the hospital or you go to the pediatrician and you're in and out? You're in and out in like what, 10 minutes? And did they even listen to you? Have you been there?
Yeah, you certainly don't feel that same sense of I don't know if it's not fulfillment, but sense of belonging or value, I guess maybe
Mhm.
when you're just kind of pushed along the assembly line, so to speak.
Yeah. And or you walk out of there and you don't even know what they said.
Hmm.
And so you're just a believer. The doctor says this is what needs to be done. But does it? And so I'm just so passionate about there's other things. One of the great skills I gained in the ER, and I'm very grateful for, I did triage a lot because one of the things I am really good at is thinking outside of the box. I can just help look at different perspectives. And so I kind of got derailed, but so help me get back on
So
track here.
how did you apply that thinking outside the box to the ER situation, to the ER lifestyle that you were in?
I knew I had to get the heck out. And I did. So after I started my program, I was in the ER for
So you had the coaching program while you were still at the ER. You had
mhm,
not switched over to the more
no,
traditional environment
no,
in the
not
operating room.
I was in the ER almost my whole program.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and
So
then
you really were doing complete opposite ends of the scale there, because in the ER, you're not. The ER is probably the one place where you're getting the least amount of patient relationship
mhm,
and like you're only asking like where you bleeding from, where's the
mhm.
it's the more of the emergency crisis management stuff. um
And they
ver- uh,
looked at me nutty. My coworkers and the doctors and everyone, they looked at me nutty like you are a freak.
well, because they're going to be the last ones to want to take the time to implement
Mhm,
some of these strategies, because they just don't have time for it. Like I said, if they're bleeding up from their femoral artery, they don't care, how your day's going, or what the status of your relationship is or something. They want to keep you alive. So I
yeah.
mean, I get that. That makes sense. But it also creates that void. You do that for long enough and you
Mhm.
start to get that disconnect with people. Um, so let me ask you this: growing up, were there things that you identified that you enjoyed doing that were kind of lead you down this path? Because I know we talked earlier about like you're a very empathetic person by
Mhm.
nature. And I think a lot of us tend to want to just make everybody happy, do some of that kind of stuff. So was there some of that you identified with early on?
Oh, heck no. So I grew up no, heck
You're
no.
more identified with the yard nurse who doesn't give a crap about anybody else.
No, nursing, I became a nurse at 30. No, nursing was not in my game plan. No, I wanted
No
to,
kidding.
get married young. I wanted to marry that rich man. I wanted to have, like, 5 kids.
Nice.
I
Be
wanted to
the
be at
perfect
home.
homemaker kind of thing?
Oh, heck yeah.
The white picket fence, all that good stuff?
And none of that happened. So, no, I actually fell into nursing. Falling into nursing was, totally like, that was like the Lord speaking to me saying, "This is where you need to go." Because when I would think about work, I was that businesswoman. I don't know what that businesswoman was, but that's who I was. And that's who I was gonna be. But looking over my career, I wouldn't have even known how to dress for an office, let alone go to work 5 days a week. Like,
Yeah,
no.
scrubs are the way to go for sure.
Yeah.
If I were to pick my daily outfit for the day, I would definitely go the scrubs route. That's not a far stretch from about what I wear most days anyway.
Yeah. No, so as a kid, I was an attention seeker. I didn't get into toys. I didn't do any of that
Huh.
stuff. My mom said it was the most annoying because I always wanted to do. Kelly, you wanted to do.
Well, that will serve you well in life for sure, because that's one of the biggest problems that most people, and it'll certainly serve you well as a coach too, because it's coaching is, to me, it appears to be a lot about just getting people to do, to start, to move forward, to take action.
You had to live. Everyone says, how often, Nate, have you said, or you've heard someone say, we'll do this next week, next year, next paycheck, next.
Yeah, or
The
that sounds
great,
like a great idea. We should do that. Oh yeah,
Mhm.
we will definitely do that at some point. Some of
And
those kind of
so,
things.
why not do it today? Or at least try to put yourself in that situation, live in today, and then create what that looks like.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what you did with the coaching program. You just kind of went for it, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, I did.
And so we were talking about, tell me before we started recording, we were talking about your first client. So I want to talk about, like, for a lot of us getting into podcasting, or I talk about lifestyle design. So my program is about how to start down this path. So tell us about, what is it like getting that first client, the process of trying to do that, and any advice that you would have for folks like me in the podcasting, or other that are trying to get it, not necessarily coaching, but just whatever your
Yeah.
business is, getting that first customer, because that first one's always the hardest one, right? Like for me,
Oh, it
that first
is.
advertiser, that's the toughest one to get.
That is funny because for before launching my business in July, I played around for like a year. And I thought because of my experience, I thought because I was an ER nurse and I had this peri-op care and I just have all this knowledge, I thought people would just flock to me.
Watch me open the gates and everyone
Yeah,
just come.
come. And it didn't work. And so,
Meanwhile, it's crickets.
yeah, exactly. And then I
Welcome
hired
to the world of podcasting, my friend. That's exactly what it's like.
and then I hired a business coach and it was just amazing diving deep in and
Seeing now the behind the scenes, how it all
see,
really works, right?
well, and just the question, getting out of the comfortability because nurses in particular and humans, we get comfortable and
Certainly.
we get comfortable in our good and in our crap. And so no, it was really interesting. But my first client I actually had, Moselle, and I can use her name because she gave me permission. She's
I
just
was
a
gonna say
great
we can change the names to
no, no,
protect the innocent if we need to.
yeah. No, I had actually asked her if it came up. And she was like, oh no, it's probably like her moment of fame. And
Awesome. What's up, Moselle?
I know.
Hope you're checking this out.
So when she met with me, she came to me and said she wanted to meet because the Moselle, I think, she's early 80s.
Oh wow.
And yeah, and when we met, it was like the middle of COVID and all this stuff. And the ladies at church needed something. So she was going to check it out. And we were just conversation, like just the deep conversation of what are you looking for? What's this look like for you? And at the end of the conversation, she says, when do I sign up? And
And
so
you're like, sign up for what? I don't even
yeah.
know.
And so like inside, I'm screaming. Ah! And so Moselle was my first client. And so she's local. So we were able to meet at parks.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
yeah, because thank goodness for Zoom because I am a C person. Like I love
Yeah, I'm the
seeing
same way. I got to be able to look at you. I
yeah.
mean, like I said, I mean, I was doing these in person for a lot. I wouldn't even do them over the computer until COVID hit. I think there's something about that connection and being able to look somebody in the eye and all that.
Okay, well I'm glad you're doing it because Georgia would have been a little 14-hour drive from here.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. My caller this week, he drove in from that. He actually just moved to Dallas, ironically. But his business is based out of Nashville. So he actually drove in from Nashville for us to do the interview. Nathan Ruff. What's up, man? Shout
That's
out to
cool.
Rabbit.
Yeah, Rabbit. Hey, Rabbit.
They do they make these little, it's brilliant. I don't want to get off the rails here, but they make these little chargers that you can like check out like you do like the scooters,
Oh, really?
And you take the charger around, charge your phone, when you're done, you stick it back in the kiosks. They're like all over
Oh,
town.
oh, that's
It's a
fabulous.
brilliant concept.
Yeah, like how many times have I needed that?
Yeah, it's an absolutely beautiful model.
Yeah.
But anyway,
So
again, I digress.
Right.
The theme for the show today. I digress.
So I meet with Moselle on her very first session. And I'm just diving into conversation like, who are you? How have you gotten to be? Gosh, I wish I knew. Like, if I think I want to say she's 84, but if you're not Moselle, I'm so sorry. I know it's early 80s, but I want.
Come
How
on,
did you,
coach. What's
I
up?
know. Like, how did you get here? Like, what does your life look like? What are those
Oh, I can
experiences?
imagine there's some amazing stories.
It is. And I always, like, how did you get to where you are? How did you come to want to talk and dive in? And she's a caretaker, primary caretaker for her husband of probably 50 plus years. And she has a granddaughter who is just challenging in all the wrong ways. And she's lost 2 kids to self-abuse or suicide. She's been a boss, she's been a business owner, she's been fired, you know, just all of this amazing stuff, and she's lost. And I'm asking, like, where do you want to go? What does her parents lived? Both of her parents lived almost be 100.
Oh, wow.
So so Moselle potentially has
So
another
she's got some more time. Yeah,
20 years, and
at least.
how do you want to live it? And we
I love
dive
that.
in and we're having this conversation, and she stops and she takes a pause. She slaps her hand down on the picnic table, kind of a thump, and she says, "Damn it, it's my time." And I kind of just chuckled and said, "Why did it take you so long?"
Yeah, why'd it take 84 years, right?
And she had a couple different things. Her big concern initially is, am I kind of losing it because of age, or something really physically wrong? And she
Hmm.
comes from that time where, doctors used to spend time. You had your doctor from the time you were a youth up, and they would spend time with you. They knew you, they knew your family, they knew all this stuff. And she'd recently had a new doctor, the in and out, in and
Right.
out. And did he even listen to me? And what did he say? And I got her set up with a new provider. I'd asked her, "Are you willing to see someone new?" And once I could get her to where she could work on her health with, the right professional to listen to her and get her going, she could work on how she wanted to create the next 15, 20 years of her life, how she could start living today with less regret.
And so what did you tell her?
Well, I didn't really tell her anything. I just kind of asked her, what's this look like? And is there support that you could reach out for your husband?
Or I guess what is that? So what does that look like
Mhm.
now for her?
She reached out to her son, who doesn't live far, to get support to help get her husband to some appointments, because you don't have to. In my world, God doesn't say you have to give up your whole life for your husbands, your kids, your
No.
spouses.
Well, it's like we go back before. It's like you got to
Yeah.
take care of number one first. And the
Mhm.
better job you do of taking care of number one, the better job you're going to be able to provide for others. But you
Mhm.
have to take care of number one first.
And she felt like she hadn't.
Well, she
And
probably hadn't. She probably been taking care of everybody else but
mhm.
her. And that's what got her to the point where she was now.
And so, just through deep conversation, providing the space to even imagine something other than where you had, she was able to create like outlets. One of the big things that she really appreciated was getting her little fancy coffee once a week.
Mhm.
Get that damn coffee.
Absolutely.
We talked about if X, Y, or Z is really like invading in on your space and your happiness, what is your backup plan? You could create this.
So I'm curious. I've got two follow-ups to this, and
Okay.
they could go two different directions. So I got to be careful we get them both in. So maybe we'll stick with the process one first, because that'll hopefully be a shorter, sweeter answer, or more concise. So what did you when you had Moselle as your first client? What did you learn about your process of coaching from that first client?
What I learned with Moselle was interesting, because when I was in my program, we did student coaching, and you know, and I learned that, because I'm a talker, And I'm used to just telling people what to do. As a nurse, we tell people
Yeah.
what to do.
Take this at this time. Here's your
Mhm.
prescription. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And what I learned with Mizelle is when she had specific health questions and concerns, I sought the permission to go into the expert role where I could say, here's what we can do. And then afterwards, I was able to go back into.
What did that look like? Or what did that sound like? I guess I'm very curious.
I was really just kind of blunt when she'd had these health concerns, and I had just pretty much said, "Hey, Mizelle, may I go into the nurse role where I can give you actual advice? I can share my knowledge
Can
with
I
you
shift
directly."
from
Hmm.
friend and confidant to
Yeah.
now expert in advice giving? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I like that. That's a
Yeah.
very pragmatic way to shift without it being, well, oh, like, now I'm open. I'm hearing what you're saying. Okay, now let me
Hmm.
tell you what to do. Without it
Yeah.
being that whole, they
Yeah.
can still feel vulnerable. They can still feel very
Hmm.
comfortable opening up. I
Because
really
then,
like that.
yeah, because then after that, I go back into my role of, I don't know, I mean, navigator, expert, not expert, confidant, dreamer with you. And at that point, it's up to my client or my patient, whatever, to take that knowledge I gave them as an expert and implement it.
Did
Because,
she?
oh, absolutely.
Awesome.
I think once she was able to get in with a provider who listened to her and was able to work on that stuff, because she ended up having some stuff that needed to be worked on.
But I mean, even just the action of switching providers. I mean,
Hmm.
that was an act of trust in you and your
Hmm.
advice. So that's kind of like the very, very,
Yeah.
very first step kind of thing.
But it gave her space to be able to um, create what she wanted, to set boundaries, to start living her dreams, to smile.
I love it. Okay, so now here's a more philosophical question, or maybe one that will take some expounding upon, if you will. So you've seen the ER side, the extreme side of just reactionary care, and now you're really dealing with the far inside of patient care, and even just patient, uh I'm trying to think the best way to describe it. It's because it's not even care at that point. We'll call it coaching. We'll call it the holistic coaching, for lack of a better term. So you've seen both into that spectrum,
Mhm.
from the healthcare world, from the world of insurance, from the future of America, society, all that kind of stuff. What's the balance? What's the answer? Because at a certain, like we were talking about before we started recording, hospitals have to be able to be profitable. They
Mhm.
have to be able to make money in order for this care to continue. So I mean, like, capitalist market, I am 100% support of. But in our efforts to do that, like you've noticed, we've lost this patient connection. And I believe that if we have a stronger patient connection, if we have a stronger understanding of that individual and empower them to make better decisions, then they will ultimately do a better job of managing their own healthcare.
Mhm.
But as a hospital, I can't hire Kelly to spend 40 hours a week just getting to know patients, just doing that touchy-feely kind of stuff. So where's the balance? What's the best answer to figure that out?
That's interesting. And I haven't named my hospital system, so that's good. Because my hospital
We'll keep
system
it on the down low.
has a coaching program, but it's only for the economically poor. So everyone else, be sick.
Interesting.
um, yeah, it's been very interesting. It's finding my balance. I think we're a band-aid society. And this is
Absolutely.
where, and this is where, like wellness coaching or navigators kind of can come in, um, because there's a balance. And it's like, what extreme do you want to pay? So take our houses and our cars, Nate. We get a leak in our roof, or you tape up that pipe that is just going, or your car's kind of clunking along, and what do? We don't want to spend our money on that stuff. I mean, who wants to do that? So what, we find a Band-Aid, we put the tarp on, or a shingle, or, you try to fix your major car issue on its own. And then kind of what happens 6 months later, it's like a major downpour through the ceiling, or your car's just totally exploded. And you take what could have been corrected 6 months before is now imploded. And I think there's the balance with healthcare is, if we take care of ourselves on a better level at home, hospitals are still going to survive. You know, it's just directing care. It's teaching society what works for you. Everyone's always going to need a doctor. Everyone's always going to need a nurse and a physical therapist, because stuff just happens. But if you can take it on a different level and not flood in for the flu, or you could correct your blood pressure and not have that heart attack or that stroke, it takes away from the overflooding of what doesn't need to be. In my world, this is Kelly's world, and focuses on, it gives you time and sources for the things that you can't control.
So how could the healthcare system and these hospitals and these insurance companies, how could they do a better job of doing that?
Insurance is just tricky. I don't even know where to begin on that. I think
Or I guess maybe from the healthcare system, like from a
Yeah.
hospital system, like how can, and again, we don't want to name your hospital
Yeah.
specifically, but how could a hospital system, because, for what it's worth, my dad has done some consulting with some hospitals on a variety of different issues. And one of them is patient care, and doing a patient survey, and getting that, what they're calling is customer satisfaction, because they're coming at it from a standpoint of like from a hospitality, like a Marriott or whatever. It's like, that's all about hospitality scores. So what they've done is they've implemented a lot of hospitality score systems within their programs and within the hospital, to try to improve that customer's experience, or that hospitality score, if you will. So I was just curious, being that you're an expert coming from the hospital world, if you had any suggestions on ways that we could fix the system. If you put Kelly in charge, Kelly Warr's got the hospital now, and you still got to make money, you still got to keep it in business, but like, what would you do? How would you handle it?
Oh my God, we could go into a whole podcast over that if we lived in this world of that'd be scary. Put Kelly
maybe
in
just
charge.
one or two, or like just the big picture thing. Like, what would you
the
like
big
to see
picture thing
change?
is I think promoting. I mean, on a surface, in my experience, hospitals want to pretend that they actually care about preventative health, but you can have this little picture of like, do this stuff, but in the end, not back it and not promote it. Get some actual wellness coaches in there that actually work with you. Get rid of some of the we treat everyone the same for every condition. I look at my clients and my patients as individuals. I'll never forget, I had this lady, she was getting ready for surgery, and she needed to lose weight. And her husband, of course, was skinny, stick. And, he's just ramping up. Well, if she would do this, and if she would do this, and she would do this, and she would do this, she would just be fine. Well, one, what kind of support is that? That's just no support. And
unfortunately, sounds like a lot of relationships I know.
Yeah. I mean, so great that works for him. It's not working for her. She's not even interested. So I remember saying to her, what is it that you would really like to do? And she says, I will use 50 pounds, because I can't remember the number. I want to lose 50 pounds. All right, well, how do you want to do that? Well, the doctor says I have to quit eating all of this, and I can't drink this, and I have to follow this. Well, blah, blah, blah. What is it that you want to do that you can implement and you can take effect every single day?
Yeah.
And she wanted a cookie. All right, I love cookies. And I'm telling her, I'm like, this is totally possible. And she's like, wait, the doctor says. And I'm not dismissing doctors at all. Doctors are overwhelmed, burdened. Like, that's a whole different thing. But I'm like, who cares what the doctor says? What is it that you're going to implement? And she's like, I want this cookie. And I said, all right, now what can you give up? And her eyes lit up, Nate. Like, can you imagine? Could you imagine you're healthy and imagine something.
What did she give up?
I think she said that
What made her eyes light up? The fact that
she could have a cookie, and maybe her eyes lit up that a healthcare professional was saying,
it's
you
okay
could
to
still,
have a cookie.
yeah, you could still lose weight. You could still eat your cookie, but in replace, what are you willing to give up? Is it portion size?
What did she give up?
I think she got rushed off to surgery, but like you could, I mean, it was her surgery.
So she got the cookie and no consequence. So no wonder you're doing so well.
No,
dangling cookies everywhere.
In this short, I know, funny. In this short conversation, I think I provided her space. Yeah. And I think what she probably took from it was a whole different concept of, oh, I can have a say.
Well, yeah, it's being heard. Even if you didn't give any advice, even if you didn't talk about either, at the end of the day, she was allowed to be heard. Mm-hmm. Her voice had, value, and that there's something to be said for that. And it is really, I know it's a tough nut to crack, because it's, like, we're real quick to blame insurance companies and the system for not promoting the wellness and all that. But at the end of the day, they're going to do what's, let's say, what's asked for. If there's a demand for it, then it's going to be out there. And I'll tell you, because like for me, I was just trying to find a general practitioner that would help me on a proactive approach to healthcare and a proactive approach to my personal situation. I was trying to individualize my system, and it was like pulling teeth. He just could not wrap his head around a proactive approach. Mm-hmm. But it was because nobody was asking for it. I mean, I was the first guy this guy has probably ever seen in his life of 20 years of being a doctor that actually asked for a proactive approach. So, so I guess the reason why I say that is, okay, so how do we foster? Because we all want the magic pill. We all want to be skinny. We all want to look good and all that, but very few of us are actually willing to put in the work or actually going out, willing to seek out that advice. So I guess, how do we foster that kind of a culture? How do we get people more engaged with wanting to live a lifestyle like that, or asking doctors for that kind of advice?
I think you're doing it. I think as a podcaster, you've made one great step. It's getting the knowledge out there that it's okay. I've worked and I've taken, how would it be? Like, I've taken all this experience that I have. My eyes have been opened. I have chronic illness. I have chronic lung disease, and it started 10 years ago. And I had a doctor tell me, get your nursing home ready, quit nursing, and you're going to die because I have some genetic stuff. And imagine if I would have listened to this doctor.
And just accepted that as fate.
Yeah. And I've had ups and downs with my lung disease. I've been totally frivolous, and have put on weight when I know what my weight limits should be. I'm a foodie. I love to eat.
Yeah, maybe.
And then I've been times where I am right on it, but I've learned what works for me, and I've trialed and erred. Imagine if your mom or your dad, or we all know someone who has something going on. Imagine if you had someone to walk hand in hand with you who has this experience of personal struggles, vast hospital care, lifespan knowledge, and provides a service to empower you, to help guide you to this life or health that you want. How would that feel?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's why those support groups are so successful. Like, whether it be for somebody that have lost a spouse or a significant other, or somebody going through families with addiction, things like that. Those support groups, It's that
Mhm.
relatability factor again. And
Mhm.
it goes back to what we've kind of become the theme of this podcast. It's like that being heard.
Mhm.
That you have a voice and that somebody cares about what you have to say and that
It's
there's
daunt
value from you.
it's daunting. I have, I'll never forget, recently I had, a patient, and she was in her early 80s. 80s seems to be the theme of the day. But she was in her 80s, and she was going in for a procedure. And she didn't want this procedure. And the doctor had said, you have to do this or you're going to die. So you need to do this. And so the doctor's, the doctor's the expert. And she gets to me, and the doctor's not there. And she's just crying, and she's like, I just want to die. And I take a moment, I close the door, and I hold her hand. Who cares about COVID at the moment? There's good hand washing going on.
Amen.
And I hold her hand, and I get fairly close to her. And I say to her, what's going on? Tell me, share with me. There's something more than just the surgery and wanting to die. And as tears are flowing down her face, she's like, my husband's in hospice. He's by himself. He's dying. He has days. And here I am. And I've been married to this man. I think they've been married almost 60 years. It's making me teary. And she's like, we got married when we were young. Like, I've lived life with this man. What's it going to be like? And to take a moment to, just listen. I just listen. What do you say to that? And here comes the doctor, and I had to kind of push the doctor aside kindly, but I'm like, because the doctor comes in, if you don't have to do this, but you're going to go die. You'll probably die in a week. I just don't even have words for that, and I ended up getting the chaplain involved, and the chaplain and we just listened to her, and the chaplain was able to pray with her. And she didn't have to do the surgery. And in the end, she chose to do it because she wanted to go and be with her husband as he died. How amazing is that? What if that was your mother in the hospital and this at the time families couldn't come in
Because of COVID and all that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So she's by herself telling she's going to die, but yet her husband of 60 years is going to die. It wasn't about the procedure she was going to have. It was about, how do I live life without this man? I don't know any different. What's that look like?
Yeah, that's that could be tough. And yeah, it's
And I just felt the need to hold her hand and to sit with her and to listen.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't even require. My follow-up question was going to be some of that good advice that you try to give out, but like rather than ask that question, there's times where it's good to just not say anything. There's a time and a place to just be there, to just be present for somebody, and a lot of times that can be much more fulfilling and rewarding and needed than any advice, anything that you could actually say. I think a lot of times
Yeah.
there's a time and place to just not say anything.
And that was the number one thing I had to learn when I dove into this is silence, because I love to talk.
That rings very true with this
Yeah.
podcast. My best advice and the last thing I tell myself before I start each episode is just shut up.
Mm-hmm.
Shut up and listen. And if I can do that, then it'll be a good interview. But when I
Yeah.
can't seem to shut up, it's when it
And we're talkers.
right? Because that's well, anybody that's in this world, I mean, it's kind of by nature, but
So you asked early on, like, what was one of the major transformations for me in the coaching, and the learning to just give uncomfortable space and listen has been the greatest lesson for me, because it's uncomfortable.
learning how to accept uncomfortable silence is a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful thing
Yeah.
without
And
question.
so my vision of empowering individuals is navigating them to live their best, healthy, happy, whatever it is. Your picture's different than mine. The neighbor next door is different than both of ours. It's different. That's what makes the world beautiful and challenging and frustrating. What's healthy for me is different than the next person. And we're all individuals, and I look at you as an individual. I have I coached a client when I was in my internship, and she's a personal trainer. And when she came to me, she was frustrated. She's addicted to food, and addicted to food in all the wrong areas.
Hmm.
And it stemmed from her childhood. Now, as wellness coaches, we don't dive into like past traumas.
Right.
We get enough info to kind of just see where you're coming from. And so I got this knowledge, and we're working through this, and she's trying to discover skills to kind of get back into the healthy flow. And one day she comes and she's just, I don't want to talk about food. I'm over it. And so what do you want to talk about? I need to sleep. Dang it, I need to sleep. And I don't know, as we age, like we don't sleep good. We have to teach ourselves to sleep good. Does that sound familiar at all?
For most people, yes.
Yeah.
For most
And
people.
when I was able to help her kind of train herself to sleep, suddenly her eating kind of lined
all
up.
that works, right? It all.
And so it's that picture.
Well, it's so funny. She was a personal trainer.
Mhm.
How funny is that? Like,
But we all have our pictures that we show people.
yeah, of
We
course.
don't
We
like to
all have
show
our
people,
facades.
we don't like to show people our struggles.
And what's funny is that's what's appealing to folks. That's what I try to express as much as I can. It's that soft underbelly that's appealing to people. It's, yeah, you can have that big flashy facade, but watching you fail along the way is what inspires people to want to do it for themselves, not the big fancy
Yeah.
facade, at least not where I come from anyway.
No, it's the honesty of showing balance and that you've worked on yourself, but you're human. I often tell people I coach from my real life crappy, fun, exciting, pathetic life experiences because oh my God, I could write a
You
book.
and me both, sister.
I've had some doozies.
That's what I'm doing, writing a book, trying to put it all in there. That's, all those will hopefully be in there. Well, at least some the ones that won't get me in trouble anyway.
Yeah. And so I provide the space. I'm human. You either like me or you don't. I'm either your cup of tea or I'm not, and that's okay. That's
Yeah,
totally
everybody
fine.
has got to have their own appeal because this is all the same stuff, just repackaged in a different format. So on that note, I'm curious, talking about the coaching stuff, you approach it as a holistic coach.
Yeah.
And that to me means a certain connotation of alternative medicine, if you will. But yet you come from a traditional medicine field. So tell me about the holistic applications that you apply to your coaching. And as somebody coming from traditional medicine, have you always believed in some of those alternative things? Is that something that you currently believe in? What does that look like to you in your world?
For me, it's very interesting. I think there's a good meld of holistic and conventional. And I think it's
And
finding
isn't that really the best approach at the end of the day? I mean, if we can be real here, I mean, because I love, people that want to talk about holistic. They're like, well, I'm never going to go to the doctor and cancer isn't real, whatever. Like, Steve Jobs, I think Steve Jobs ultimately died before he should have because of his original holistic approach. But yet at the same time, like you're talking about with this cut and dry medicine, lick and stick, write a prescription, everything, that's not the best answer either.
No, absolutely not. So I'm very interested because I have some partnerships going. I'm pretty good friends with an acupuncturist, and she is pretty holistic all the way through. And I've learned amazing things.
Obviously, those guys tend to be in that space.
And she's amazing. And she does a cupping, like when my lungs flare up. She's the first one that's done cupping on me. Oh my God, like how
How'd
amazing.
you like that?
I loved it. I loved it.
That's one I've been hesitant to try. It looks painful, man. I have a sensitive back anyway, so I don't know.
There's points where I was a little bit more tender, but when I've had some flare ups with my lungs and stuff, oh my gosh, she can just open it up. But I was having some ankle swelling and just some different weird random stuff on my ankle. And she did cupping on my ankle. And I was like, you
Huh.
can do cupping on an ankle?
Yeah, I didn't know.
And
I
that,
saw it's all on your back.
no, you can do cupping. Actually, they can do cupping for like facial stuff, like wrinkles. And
Oh, wow.
yeah,
You gotta look like a weirdo for the next day or two, but hey, if it works, right? Who cares?
exactly. So, I've learned a lot as I've dove in. I've done acupuncture on and off since about 30, just here and there. I've never been totally passionate about it up until like the last couple of years when I really opened. I think I had to open my mind to it.
Interesting. Huh.
Um, but I'm not one extreme or the other. I think there's got to be that fine balance. So my dad has well, maybe Parkinson's, but essential tremors,
Okay.
and
Manifest like Parkinson's,
and
if nothing
yeah,
else.
and he's in this world of which one is it?
Gotcha.
And my dad's a manly man from, born in the late 40s and this and that. And it was like about a year ago. And I was like, just like they keep throwing medicines at him and medicines and medicines and nothing's working. And I'd said to my dad one day, try some acupuncture. And fine, you know. And he's done acupuncture, I think for about almost just shy of a year, on and off for about a year.
No kidding.
And he doesn't necessarily get all the results like long term that he wants, but he gets the short term.
Hey.
But it was interesting because he came from this world and he goes grumbling, fine, I'll just teach my daughter, and he walked away with a whole different experience. And so now he's a little bit more open minded.
I love shifting mindsets.
Yeah.
That's
And,
so much fun. Well, and what's cool is that like at the end of the day, he's getting some relief and it's
mhm.
solving a problem. And if you can do that for anybody, and you make anybody, I always say like if you can do anything to make anyone a little less miserable,
Mhm.
then you're on the right track, kind of thing.
And so ultimately, Nate, I think my journey here with my form of coaching or being a navigator for you is I want to inspire people to live their best healthy, discover what that is. And if you need guidance of looking outside of the box, of bringing different things in, like the lady with the cookie, like if she was my client, we would dive deep in. We would like get to, my goal is to make you a little bit uncomfortable with some of the questions because I'm not your best friend. It's not to be hurtful, nothing like that,
Yeah,
but
but make you
to,
explore, make you
yeah,
get outside
because,
that comfort zone.
yeah, because I want to inspire you to be your best healthy. I want you to be the number one team member on your healthcare team
Nice.
because it's not that way. So often, we walk in and we walk out and we're like, our heads are spinning. Am I dying? Am I alive? Do I need this med? Do I not need, like you walk out, you don't know. But I want to inspire you, help you learn the skills to walk in and be heard.
So what's the one, if you had to pick one, what's the one most effective way that you see people, or what's the one strategy that people can implement or use or whatever, whether it be acupuncture or meditation or whatever, to get that change, to get this process on? What have you found to be the most effective tool in your toolbox, if you will?
Oh, that's tough. I knew you were going to ask a tough question.
Yeah.
I don't know if I think it's different for everyone.
You haven't seen any kind of commonality in your clients?
I think the number one tool, I guess, at this point in my early career here is um, sitting down with the first conversation and allowing them to be heard. The first tool, I guess, would be acknowledging where you're at and what you want,
I like that.
because you can't
Yeah.
move forward if you don't know where you're at.
So I guess like the first tool that you would need is some kind of an accountability partner, even if it's not a coach,
Hmm.
it's just some kind of an accountability partner, somebody that you
Yeah.
can uh, open up to and be comfortable with. That
And
makes
I
a lot of
don't
sense.
and I don't know if it's your partner or your family member's the person.
No, typically it's not. I would say no, that would not be the person to go to.
Mm-mm.
unless that's all you have. But these days with the virtual world, the world
Yeah.
that we're living in, there's no excuse to not have one of those. Matter of fact, that's something I need to do a better job of myself now that we're talking about it. Um, so let me ask you this. If everything goes according to plan, perfect world, all your wildest dreams come true, this coaching business does exactly what you thought it would and should do. What does it look like 10 years from now? What does an average day in the life of Kelly Warr look like?
Oh my gosh. Like, I want this world to manifest. So the number one thing about that would be is, I love you as patients, but I would rather have you on the side of empowering you as a client and not having to go to the hospital anymore. Because like, that is just where I want to be. The day in the life would be waking up not at 4:30 in the morning, a little bit later. I'm a morning person. Being able to just take a moment to pause, whatever that is for me. I like to usually stroll like around the neighborhood or sit in my back patio and just kind of just take in. I love sunrises and sunsets. And then probably have a client or two in the morning or a call to see where someone is. Of course, you have to have lunch. I'm a lunch.
Yeah.
I'm a food person, so I have to have my 3 meals and 2 snacks a day.
Awesome. You and me both. I think there's something to be said about that consistent eating thing. I think I'm a big believer in that, like just not having those spikes and dips and whatnot.
Yeah. I'd probably like to just have a few clients a day, a few days a week. I don't think I would do coaching every day.
Yeah.
Probably like 3 or 4 days, have a certain set of number. I'm not sure what that would be, but just have that balance, be able to like kayak when I want and go paddle boarding if it's the summertime. And
well, now you're stealing my next question. I was going to ask you. So when you're not doing this, how do you like to spend your time? What do you enjoy doing when you're not coaching and helping folks in this world?
Oh, in the summertime, in the spring, and I think actually this weekend we're gonna go. My mom and I are gonna go either kayaking or paddle boarding.
Amazing.
Like water is my happy place.
Where do you like to do the kayaking and paddling stuff?
It's so funny because people think, oh, you're in Texas, there's no water. It's all man-made water for the most part. But
dude, there's lakes everywhere in Texas. What are you talking about? That's some of the best wakeboarding around.
One of my actually favorite places to kayak and paddleboard is along the Trinity River, and you're literally going along the side of a major freeway.
Nice, very cool.
So you're out there.
You feel like you're going fast or something.
You're out there, and you're like going through the city, and here's all the metropolitan, and
I love it.
There's the freeway.
That's great. So, the path I took my buddy on running yesterday, it's the same kind of thing. It's like it's right in this like retail mecca, and which butts up right next to the freeway. But this path is just down by this creek, and it's like hidden and overgrown. Like you would never know that's there. You'd never have any idea that. And when you're on the path, you'd never have any idea that all this, you're surrounded by retail space and a mall and all this other crap. But anyway, so all right, so I've got a couple of last questions. We're gonna wrap it up. We blew through an hour like it was we were standing still. But there are a couple of wrap up questions I like to do, and we're gonna plug all your stuff, all that kind of stuff too. And you've been listening to a few episodes, so you may know where I'm going with some of this. The first one we've already kind of covered, but I'm gonna hit it anyway. And the second one will take a little bit of thought. First question: if you had a billboard for all the world to see, what would you put on it? What's the message that you want to share with the world? And then the last question, it's a little bit tricky, but kind of fun. What's your one item under $100 that you use on an everyday basis that you cannot live without?
Which one do you want first?
I want the billboard first because that's easy.
The billboard would be everyone needs a Kelly. Everyone needs a navigator to empowering themselves to their best, healthy, and happy. So yes, I think it'd be
everyone needs a navigator. I like that one. That might end up being the title.
I think it should be everyone needs a Kelly.
A Kelly. Everyone needs a Kelly. Yeah, that's we're gonna plug. Well, because so normally my titles are like coaching with Kelly Warr or whatever, or this, that. So it could be everyone needs a Kelly Warr, or everyone needs a what was the other one? What do we call it again? A navigator.
Navigator.
Everyone needs a navigator with Kelly Warr, or everyone needs a Kelly Warr, the navigator. I don't know, we'll come up with something cool. I'm
So
play on
yeah,
that.
so like I've been like everyone said, you have to have these taglines, and that's like been one of the most challenging things to me, which is so lame. But what I've been doing recently is navigate your chronic illness quicker and better. So yeah, that's
Or just
ultimately,
navigating chronic illness.
yeah,
It can be as simple as that, because I mean that's there's a need for that, and you're filling a space that's
yeah. I throw in the
really, really
better.
important.
I throw in the better and quicker because I've lived it and worked it, and so I have secrets that you can't get anywhere else.
Secret hacks to surviving chronic illness or something.
And getting through the
Yeah.
system.
Have you done any blog posts on any of that and started that whole process and putting it out there, letting everybody know what an expert you are on all this stuff?
Yeah, I have. I'm hoping my website will be back up. It's been down for 2 months. It's not my forte.
What's keeping your website down? Are you on WordPress or Wix, or what are you on?
I switched from Wix to Squarespace.
Oh, so that's the struggle.
Yeah, and it's just,
Yeah.
recreating it and
I'd offer to help, but I haven't
yeah.
dealt with Squarespace at all. But that being said, my guy that is over at Rabbit, they have a web development company and a marketing company. So if it's keeping your website's got to be up. So no matter
Yeah,
how ugly.
I'm hoping it'll be up by tomorrow or Sunday at the
Okay.
latest.
Well, if it's not,
Yeah.
call me on Monday and we'll
Oh,
stick another
absolutely.
pack of wolves on it and get it up within the next
Perfect.
24 hours.
Yeah, that'd be good to know.
Gotta happen. Gotta happen. Okay. Sorry. Last question. What's your favorite item under $100 that you could not live without?
Okay, this is totally vain, but it is what it is. And I think
Hey.
it was like $35 and I got it at Target. So it is a blow dryer, flat iron in one.
Something that has absolutely no utilitarian use for me whatsoever, because I
No.
am going bald and thin in hair, and I certainly can't curl it or dry it or anything else like that. So
Yeah.
tell me about it. What's the brand? What's the story? What does it do
Well, there's
for
a
you?
couple of different brands. I think mine's like Revlon or something.
Okay.
And I have naturally wavy hair and I have
Okay.
thick hair, and I can own it either way. But there's just those times like if I'm going traveling, it's like the hair doesn't have to be washed as much when it's flat. And if I was to do the whole blow drying thing with my big mop, it takes like 40 minutes just to blow dry. And then if I want to get a good flat iron in it, you have girls in your household,
I do.
so
I do.
I could spend hours there just so there's an hour and a half of your day just blow drying and flat ironing. And so when I saw this blow dryer flat iron thing, I'm like, oh my god, it's amazing. So I just like get my hair somewhat air dried. I could have it dried in a generic flat iron in like 20 minutes, and then I can take my flat iron if I wanted a little bit more sleek, another 10 minutes, boom, done. Yes.
I love it. I love it. Time saver too. That's probably the most unique answer I've gotten so far. So I love it. And certainly the one that's applied the least amount to me. So hopefully it'll apply to other members of the audience, because I get so focused on myself that it's can get
Yeah.
kind of lame or whatnot. But so that's
Did you want a
beautiful.
different answer? I could think of a
No,
different,
that's a fantastic. Well, if you've got another one, I'll take it. But no, I love it.
no.
I think that I couldn't have asked for a better one.
Yeah,
Awesome.
no, that was it.
All right, so we'll wrap this thing up. Tell everybody the website will be up by the time this airs. You will be able to go to the website. So we'll go ahead and plug that now, and any
Yes.
other social media. And then, of course, last but not least, you know how the show goes. We always want to promote a charity or an organization that's doing some good stuff that you like to promote or share. Now's your
Yes.
opportunity.
Okay, so website will be up by the end of the weekend, or I'll be on the phone with Nate Monday. It's kellywarwellness.com.
And that's War with 2 R's.
2 R's, WARR.
Wellness with 2 L's, and Ness with 2 S's.
I've never thought about it like that. I know, I like, how complicated, right? And then
and Kelly with 2 L's.
and then both Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Kelly
What's
Warr
your Instagram handle is Kelly Warr Wellness?
Yep.
Okay.
Facebook,
cool.
Instagram, LinkedIn, all of it.
All of it's wellness. Okay. All of it's got
Yeah.
the wellness on the end.
And then I have
Excellent.
a private Facebook group for those who are truly interested in learning more. It's called Mindset and Health, and they can access it through Kelly Warr Wellness. And then, the charity. Right now, it's been torn. Usually my heart kind of goes towards like the lung disease ones. I'm a carrier to alpha-1 antitrypsin. So typically that's where a lot of my stuff will go. And then I support my church.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time. And oh, do well, and for well, yeah, we'll end it on that. Thank you for your time. Thank you for what you're doing. And I love the approach. I love that coming from your background and your experience and having seen that side of the coin, and to now create a mission and a purpose around the other side of that and how to bring those two together. I think it's going to be a vital role for the future. And I think that you're going to play a much more significant role on both sides of that equation than you probably even realize at the moment, just by doing what you're doing today. So keep it up, man. Some
Thank
good
you, Nate.
plan.
I'm so grateful for this opportunity of conversation, and our conversation was all over the place. So
We were a hot mess today, but
I
hopefully
hope
somebody will get something
everyone,
out of it.
yeah, I hope everyone listening can just be intrigued enough to want to have a conversation, because ultimately, wellness coaching is about conversation and dreaming and living that dream. Health, wellness, happiness, social, all of the above.
Yeah. Hey, and that first call is free. So reach out to Kelly and just get to know her. Let her find out if if and what she can do to help you out. It'd be a good
Absolutely. Come
a
my
good
way.
a good use of 30 minutes of your time for sure.
Yes.
All
Thank you
right.
so much for this, Nate.
All right. Thank you, Kelly. Take care.